Hi, I'm Owen from Rask Australia. Thanks for tuning in to the Rask Network. Before we get into today's show, there are a few things we have to go over. Firstly, what you're about to hear and see is limited to general information only. It's not personal financial advice like you'd get from a financial planner. Also, it's important to remember that past performance is not indicative of future performance. That means that anything that's happened in the past, or we say today, is not necessarily going to reflect what happens in the future. Lastly, please consider that any of the guests or myself are featuring on this program may have a financial interest in some of the products or shares mentioned. That's enough from me. I hope you enjoyed today's program. Queenie, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's always exciting. I tell the team that when we see your videos or just chat to you, I always come away smiling.
Aww.
I do, because you make people smile. I think that's a big part of what you do, and you and Pablo. It's really cool, and it's really just optimistic. It's fun. It's always engaging. The last time you were on the show, some people will know, some people that follow us on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, will know that we took a snippet from the last episode where you talked about a Coles savings hack. And I think it reached like 750,000 people. It made the news. It was a whole thing. So one of the things that Kate wanted us to talk about today is like a savings hack, just at the outset. So have you got one for us?
I do actually. So engagement rings, they're expensive. Diamonds are expensive. So I actually found this from a comment on one of my videos because we did a video about how Pablo saved money on our engagement ring by buying on this online diamond retailer. But apparently you can get diamond engagement rings from Costco, and it's actually a lot cheaper than going to other jewelry shops. I haven't tested it myself, but I think it checks out. It looks like Costco does sell engagement rings. So if you're looking for an engagement ring or some sort of jewelry, maybe consider Costco.
Cool. I really like that. Just quickly, for those that haven't seen the video, how did Pablo save on your engagement ring?
Oh, okay. So he actually bought, I feel like Pablo should say this. What do you think? Can I move the mic over to Pablo?
Sure.
So basically, like, there is this website you can buy online diamonds, because in Australia, if you go to the store, it can be quite expensive, or you don't get the best quality diamonds. And there's all these ratings and stuff like that. So this website has actually like usually the best value for money. I was watching videos on YouTube about diamonds, and they recommended this website and another website. It's called Blue Nil, and you can basically pick the diamond exactly like the size and the clarity or all these things, and then pick the ring, and they put it on the ring, and then they ship it to you. It takes like maybe a few days, and then even better because they can even resize it for you. So it was slightly too big for Queenie's finger, but they have like free resizing. So the only thing, if it's too big, it's fine. If it's too small, maybe a bit more annoying. But yeah, that's how I did it.
Oh, great. Well, that sounds like a huge saving. I had something similar. So I went to a website called Jogia Diamonds, and I've got it on the screen in front of me. It's Jogia, and it's based in Perth. And they do the same thing. They import the diamond for you, and then you can get it made through them, or you can take it to a diamond, like a jeweler near you. The problem is a lot of the jewelers like to make the money on the diamonds themselves. So when you take them a raw diamond, a lot of them don't like to work with it because they're like, oh, there's not much money for me to make, but some of them will. Or you can get one of their designs already. And I did this, and it was the most nervous thing, waiting for the diamond to arrive in the mail. I'll say how much I spent, but it's like, it was a big deal to me. So I think we spent $15,000, or I spent $15,000 just on the diamond. But the thing is, there's a number that goes, it's like an invisible number that goes on the back of a diamond, and you can track that number anywhere in the world. You probably know this. It's called a GIA number, and it's like invisible unless you have the little magnifying glass thing. And you can track it throughout the world and see where else it's being for sale and how much it's being priced for. And I estimated that it was being sold for double through retailers. So it gives you a sense of the savings. So if you do have a massive purchase, like a engagement ring, take a leaf out of Pablo and my book. It's worth shopping around. Obviously, there may be risks involved, so just also be aware of those. But great one.
Yeah, and even now I think they have lab-made diamonds as well. So that's another option. they're genetically, I think, the same as like natural diamonds, but they're obviously not naturally made, not naturally occurring. But yeah, you could also save big getting a lab-made diamond. Yeah.
I'd say most people don't know that.
One thing also, I think like De Beer, the company that produce all the diamonds, back like in South Africa, they actually don't put all their diamonds on the market. So they're going to keep some diamonds and sell maybe 50% of the diamonds to diamond retailers. And then that way it keeps the price high of the diamond rather than saying we have so many diamonds, we can sell it. So they will keep like maybe most of their diamonds in their store or in like their facilities, and then only say we have only that percent. So that way it keeps the price of the diamond high.
Ah, right. So it's like an artificial market.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's the diamond industry. Because they have, I think, 90% of all the diamonds. They can control what goes out of their store.
There you go. So it's even more worthwhile. All right, Queenie. So the reason we're coming together today and talking about all of these things is because we've just launched a new course. The course, yes, is Invest with Queenie's Beginner Investing Course. So this is available on the Rask Education website. There's a link in the show notes for anyone who does want to take up the course. It's $99. It will pay for itself many times over. And if you do enroll in the course, there's a chance you get to be part of a webinar or some sort of live Q&A session as well. It's got everything from PDFs, videos. Kate's done a huge amount of work as well behind the scenes, helping us all put it together. And so it's a wonderful course. We'll tell you more about it towards the end of the podcast. But one thing you like to do, Queenie, is you like to go around with a microphone. I think we're going to do one after this. And you ask people what their first investment was, what their best investment was, all these types of things. So turning it around on you for a moment, what was your first investment?
Ooh, okay. Let's do that. My first investment was a very sensible investment, and I'm very proud of myself for it. So it was an investment in a robo-advisor. So for those who don't know, a robo-advisor, it's essentially basically like a robo financial advisor that puts you into a portfolio. So what you do is you'll go onto the website, you'll fill out a little survey about your risk profile, your age, your financial goals, and then at the end of the survey, it recommends a portfolio to suit your needs. And yeah, that was my first investment because Pablo and I wanted to start investing, but we weren't sure what to invest in. And we knew that ETFs were a very popular investment for beginners, but we had no idea which ETF to buy. There were so many. It was very confusing. So we saw robo-advisors and we were like, hey, it looks like they just put you into a portfolio ready-made for you with ETFs already in there, so we don't have to pick one. So we decided to go with that option. It was a bit scary because at the time we had $5,000 saved that we wanted to invest. And it was really scary because $5,000, it's a lot of money. And it was all the money we had. And we were like, oh my gosh, like what if we lose it? What if we put it in and the stock market crashes and we lose all our money and then we're back to square one. So yeah, it was very nerve-wracking putting the $5,000 in and just waiting, just seeing what's happening. And then every day we would check. It would be up $2, down $10 one day. And it was really scary. But then, yeah, over time, it's actually done really well for us. And it was a good first investment because it is, relatively sensible compared to other investments. Like definitely wasn't like, some Forex or new crypto coin or something.
Yeah, that's very sensible. It's some might say boring, but it was super sensible. And it's a good one. Did you sell it or did you hold on to it?
So we eventually sold it when we were purchasing our first apartment, so to get the deposit out. And we did end up making money on that investment. We were dollar cost averaging into the robo-advisor and yeah, still made some money over time, which was really good. We did make some bad investments. So even though that was a sensible investment, we did make other bad investments as a beginner, like crypto, investing in cryptocurrencies that we didn't really know much about and highly volatile. So yeah.
You actually beat me to my next question, which was, so that's a really good start. Some mistakes that you might have made. Is the crypto probably one of the biggest mistakes?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's a funny story actually. So around the time that we were investing in the robo-advisor, one of my friends told me about crypto because at that time it was like 2017 or so. And this is when crypto was just becoming like all the rage. Everyone was talking about it. It was the start of a bull market. But this was kind of just before the bull market. And my friend was telling me, he was like, yeah, so I started investing in crypto and I'm making like 10% per day or something. And I was like, that's insane. That's what we make in our robo-advisor in a year. I can make that in a day. What are we doing? Like, and so that night, created an account, invested $50. And then sure enough, the next day went up by 10%. And I was like, this is easy. I am a cryptocurrency genius. I didn't know I was, but I was. And then it just kept on going, kept on investing money. And yeah, I think it was crazy because we invested $4,000 in total. And then it was worth like $20,000 at the peak of the bull market.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, this is crazy. I'm going to be like a billionaire, you know? Like I really thought like the way it was going, like sky's the limit. Yeah. Yeah. So we went on holiday for a couple of weeks. When we came back, we checked our account and it was like, there were a lot less zeros, basically. It went from 20K to like, I think $2,000. And that was a bit devastating because we were like, God damn, we should have sold. What do we do? And yeah, that's when we learned the lesson of there's a reason people say crypto is speculative and it's risky. And yeah, it was a good lesson, you know. And I'm glad we learned the lesson, even if it was painful.
And it's good you learn those lessons early on in the journey because then typically, even though it's a lot of money at the time, if you look back on that amount of money in 20 years. Well, and there's another speculative thing then maybe at that time you think, well, I learnt my lesson on this 20 years ago or so, and I won't invest too much money. And so you kind of limit that risk. And that's okay. I think one of the scary things that happens is people then think all investing is like that when it's not. I mean, there are bubbles in shares as well, but it's not all like that. And it's very rare that someone loses 100% if they've done the sensible thing of diversification when they put their money in the stock market. Before you said like you were a bit scared when you put that original amount of money in the robo-advisor. So obviously like the fear of investing is pretty normal. But was there anything else like what we call limiting money belief that held you back? Maybe some sort of like imposter syndrome. Maybe you didn't think you were smart enough and not planning things in your head, but maybe things that you thought that now you've conquered were holding you back?
Yeah, so many limiting beliefs. Geez, I still go through them every day. I'm like, oh, that's a limiting belief. I need to push that aside. I would say at the beginning, definitely the fear of not feeling like you could be one of those investors, you know, like the ones that you see on the news that have made all this money. You kind of look at your bank account and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I don't know if I have what it takes to be a successful investor, you know, it's just how it is. But I think eventually breaking down those limiting money beliefs, and I think especially in our society as a whole, I feel like there are so many, like I feel like even the thought of wanting to be wealthy or to be financially free, one of the limiting beliefs I had to overcome was thinking that people with money were evil or selfish, because you see all these movies and TV shows and the rich people are evil and selfish. And so I think subconsciously we might think, I don't want to be evil and selfish, so I just don't want to have money. And I think for a while I kind of, you know, was a bit ashamed of having those financial goals. Like part of me didn't want that, even though the other part of me wanted to have financial freedom and to have wealth. But the other part was like, no, but the people that have money are evil, you know? So trying to hold myself back. So yeah, I wonder, have you ever faced any of those?
Oh yeah. Imposter syndrome was a big one for me. Just thinking that I couldn't do it, which ironically is probably the thing that pushed me to do it. But I think we all have some element of these playing out. And it is true, like on the news or in the media or on TV, we see a lot of like negative bias towards people with money. It's always like the person that's like motivated by money is the evil person. But even if you think about it, the most popular finance movies are actually movies where there's someone doing something strange, unusual, or bad. Like The Wolf of Wall Street is like one of the most popular ones of all time, right? So that's not exactly like, I don't think that's very like kind to the finance industry. And then also other movies like The Big Short is like corruption in the system and how people profited from corruption and all this sort of stuff. So again, it's not necessarily something that people like around money and dealing with money are associated with, like, I guess, good intent. But that's a really fair one. I haven't come across anyone saying that yet. One of the things that you mentioned in the course is this idea of having money goals. So you talk about like setting, I think it's 30, 60 and 90-day goals. Can you maybe just explain how you use that framework to motivate yourself with money?
Yeah, of course. So I always found that New Year's resolutions are great, but 1 year often feels like a really, really long time to do something. And by the time you end up getting to, say, December, and you're like, oh crap, it's December. Oh my God, next month is January. I have not made any progress towards my goals. That's often what would happen for me anyway. And I was talking to one of my friends, and she said that she now sets 30, 60 and 90-day goals. And the reason why she does that is because, for one, you get to achieve way more goals in a year than if you were to just set one goal each year. So for example, let's say you set like one New Year's resolution. That's one goal that you can achieve in 12 months. And by the time you get to the end of the 12 months, you'll probably have already forgotten about the goal that you set at the beginning of the year. Whereas if you set regular goals like monthly or every 2 months or every 3 months, then you're regularly keeping on top of your goals. And let's say if you set one goal every 3 months, that's 4 goals that you can complete in 12 months. It's already 4 times as many goals that you can complete. So I like to break it down because especially the 90-day goals, I find that's my sweet spot, because I find that often like a week or a month, it just seems like too little a time to complete a meaningful goal. But a 90-day time frame, it seems like it's quite a lot of time to complete something meaningful. So yeah, change your life.
Yeah. Do you use anything to keep track of your goals? Like, what do you use, like tools to remind yourself or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. So I have this great app called Notion, and it's free. And yeah, I think it's a really great app if you want to keep track of your goals. And something else that's quite cool about Notion that we just started doing. So another one of our friends, he loves using Notion, and he has this he has this board where he has all of these different possible futures, which is really cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for example, he wants to run a marathon. So he has this board where it's like possible future, marathon runner. And it goes through all of the steps that he needs to take in order to become a marathon runner. And then another possible future for him is like go to Europe and go on a trip to Europe. And then he has all of the things that he needs to do in order to complete that goal. And I just love that concept. And we started doing it ourselves because it's really cool to be able to put down your goals and your possible futures. Instead of just having them up there in your head, you can actually visualize them, break down the steps, and it doesn't seem as scary when you actually break down those steps. So yeah, highly recommend it.
Cool. I really like that. I like the idea of shorter term goals and then using Notion to track them. I use Notion for everything as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we use it at work as well. So all of the business feeds back into Notion, even though we use Google Docs and all the rest of it. And I know a lot of businesses are adopting it for that reason. Like, you can add everything to it. It's really cool. In the course, you've got a bunch of books, and we caught up recently, like the 4 of us, we caught up, and we went down to like Mornington Peninsula, which was heaps of fun. And you guys mentioned books, and I like audio books and all these resources. But in the course that you've created, you mentioned a few books like Die with Zero, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, Start with Why, Atomic Habits, The Psychology of Money. There's so many good books that you've got in your recommended reading list. Why do you like some of these books? Like, why, like, maybe you want to call out a couple of them? Yeah,
of course. So I would say if you're going to read, it's so hard because there are so many good finance books and I love them so much. I'll have to say a couple because I don't think there's any one that I absolutely love like the best. I feel like I love them all. I would say Your Money or Your Life that's a really good one if you're looking to get into the financial independence movement. I really like how Vicky, she talks about essentially your time is money and your money is your time and vice versa, because essentially you have had to work in order to produce that money. So the way that we should look at our money is essentially like our time, really. And I really love that concept because I think it is very true, and it can help you kind of like flip your mindset into ways that you can save more money, because if you can save money, then you can essentially save your time and spend your time and your money on things that are more worthwhile. That's a really good one. And then on the flip side, Die with Zero, which was actually inspired by that book, Your Money or Your Life. But he has a bit of a different approach to thinking about money and time, because I think what's interesting in the financial independence movement and in the finance movement, people often talk about how, you know, $10,000 saved and invested in your 20s equals like $10 billion in your 80s or something, you know, and you think, wow, that's a lot of money. But when you really think about it, $10,000 spent in your 20s or 30s or 40s, when you're able-bodied, when you can do really fun things, that actually goes a really, really long way compared to even like 100,000 in your 80s or 90s, where you might not be as mobile. You might not be as healthy. You might not be able to do as many things as if you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s. So I think there's definitely a bit of a balance. Obviously, you don't want to be thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just spent, 20 minutes of worth of money on XYZ. And you obviously don't want to be spending all of your money because you're thinking like, well, I could die tomorrow, so might as well spend all of it. I think there's definitely a balance. So I think I would read those two books first because I really like the duality, and I think they're both very important mindsets. And then, of course, the classics, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, great book, Barefoot Investor, really great book, especially the super section. What's your favorite finance book?
Well, one of your books on the list is actually one of my favorites, which is The Psychology of Money, which is over-recommended these days, but it probably can't be recommended high enough, so maybe not. Morgan Housel does a great job of conveying like the behavioral elements of finance and investing in there. We actually make a joke on our other podcast, Queenie, which is the Australian Investors Podcast. We actually make a joke that Morgan actually sits in on the episodes with us because we quote him so much that he may as well be a co-host of the podcast, because we were so inspired by that book. But that's definitely one. I mean, the Robert Kiyosaki books, the original one, like the Cash Flow Quadrant and Rich Dad Poor Dad, great books. Different strategies that probably can't be replicated by some Australian, especially beginner investors, but just the concepts of building up your assets and focusing on getting rid of some liabilities or just using them strategically is so important. When you mentioned like Die with Zero before, I actually had a friend appear on the Investors Podcast, and he talked about how money to him today, like his time, he's got more time and he's got like less money. So he uses his time effectively to build money as quickly as he can. But he said, if you could give a year of your life to, I think he at the time said Rupert Murdoch, he would pay $1 billion of that for an extra year of life. And it goes to show like the trade-off that people make at different parts of their life. And I think for the most part, we don't always recognize how much time we have when we're younger, and to use it and spend that time wisely, which is really important. There is just a general question that I wanted to ask as it relates back to the course is, why did you decide to create the course with us, like with Kate, myself, and everyone in the Rask team? Like, why did you guys do that?
Honestly, I think that you have really great energy. And after Pablo met you at the FinFest, he was like, we should talk to Owen and the team from Rask. And I had already known about, your podcast and your website. And I actually did one of your courses as well, the financial independence one.
Oh, really? From
Kate?
Oh, wow.
I thought it was really, really good. And I love the layout and the website. So it just made sense. And then after doing the call with you, I felt like, I don't know, some people, you meet them and then you're like, well, it seems like they're getting something out of this, or like a bit of a taker, right?
Yeah.
But after doing the call with you, I'm like, oh, he's such a giver, isn't he? Like I just felt like that, and I was like,
thanks.
good vibes. And you and Kate are just such a great team, and Yeah, I just knew it
thanks.
was right.
Yeah, cool. And for everyone listening or watching this, it's always a great thing to come across people in our industry that are like-minded and just want to help people. And you guys definitely want to do that, which is just so great. And the fact that we can create the course together and offer that to folks is just wonderful. So I've got a couple more questions that we'll just put a bow on here. But one of them is like, what does financial independence look like to you?
Financial independence looks like not having to, I don't know, it's just so many things, hey? Like not having to worry about money and so that it impacts every single area of your life, you know? I remember when I didn't have much money and I was at uni working a few part-time jobs, spending a lot of money on Sydney rent and groceries and everything. And it was like money was everything, you know, it really was, because every decision that I made was dictated by money. You know, how do I get to work today? What's the cheapest way for me to get to work? What's the cheapest lunch that I can make for myself? What's the cheapest thing in the grocery, in the grocery basket? What's the cheapest meal that I can make that I can bring to work? You know, like every single decision that I made was dictated by money. Like, can I go out with my friends to the coffee shop and buy a coffee? No, I can't because money. Or, you know, like every single decision. So I was like, yeah, it would be so cool to not have to make every single decision based on money, you know? And I still believe that. Obviously, now I'm in a better financial position, so I don't have to think about it as much. And I still feel so grateful, like being able to go into a supermarket and not have to buy the absolute cheapest item every single time. That's such a privilege. It really is. And yeah, I would just love to have more of that in my life so that you can actually not have to worry about giving things away, not have to sweat the kind of the small things, you know, like, yeah, I love that. I love that so much, and being able to travel and have cool experiences and to be able to chat your friends dinner every so often. And yeah, I love it. What about you? What's financial independence and financial freedom?
I don't think I have a better answer than that, Queenie, because I think that's probably one of the best answers I've heard in terms of like the initial fear and feeling that people have is like everything comes back to money. And some people can have a lot of money and still have that issue. Like I know a lot of really wealthy people that have probably got wealthy through that anxiety, and some people that don't have a lot of money but don't have that because they've kind of released themselves from it. But you know, we'll quote Morgan Housel, that I already just did. So he has this line which is really eloquent. It's like financial freedom is like being able to do what you want, when you want, with who you want. And I think that's kind of the best definition of what financial independence is to me. It's just the ability to wake up and go, well, I don't have to do that thing. I can go and do this thing. It's like control. Dave Gow from Strong Money, he's on Twitter. He's pretty good on Twitter. And I'll be at work, like when I say at work, sometimes I work from home or whatever in the city, and I'll be looking at like what I'm doing. And then he puts a photo up and he's like throwing a stick for his dog at like 10:30 a.m. in the morning. I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like he can literally do that because he's achieved what his definition of financial independence is. And what may be right for him is not necessarily right for me, but I just think that that's pretty cool. And that control over your time is wonderful. And obviously in Dave's case, he's made a lot of sacrifice. But I would like to get to something like that. I think I have financial independence already, or at least I have independence, but I've achieved it in a different way. I achieved it through business rather than through the pure financial side of things. And that too required a lot of sacrifice. But effectively, I can do what I want, when I want, with who I want, most days of the week. So even if that's during work hours, like I get a lot of satisfaction in doing this, right? We're recording with everyone here. This is my definition of a great day. So even if I had $1 billion, I'd probably still be doing the same thing. So I'm very privileged, as you said, like it's a luxury, it's a privilege to be able to do that, but that's my version of it. So maybe some more like, because the course, I think if people take the course, they're likely to, what I really want for everyone to do that takes the course is invest for the first time. It's designed for people to invest. And there are so many things that hold people back from this right now. And so I'm curious, like, what do you think holds most people back from investing?
Oh, I think that it's all of those limiting beliefs that we spoke about earlier, and all of that, the fear mongering that goes on in the world of investing, because obviously we've all seen those movies, The Wolf of Wall Street, and we've seen The Big Short and movies like that where you think that, oh my gosh, these people take on crazy amounts of risk and they lose everything. And then that's kind of the end of the story. And like, oh my gosh, like that's what investing is. But the thing that we want people to remember as they take the course is you can take on as much or as little risk as you'd like to. So it's all about working out what your risk profile is, investing an amount that you're comfortable with. You know, money that you ideally don't need to live. We talk about having an emergency fund, so you don't have to dip into your share portfolio or your portfolio when the market is down, when it's not a good time to sell. So you have that freedom to be able to, you know, have that money set aside, doing its magic with the compound interest, and you just living your life. That's essentially what it is. So I think the education aspect, I think as well, is definitely something that holds people back. So hopefully with this course, people can become more comfortable with the idea of investing, just knowing what does risk actually mean. Why do people talk about people losing all of their money when it comes to investments, and what kind of goes wrong in those situations? Because I feel like a lot of the time we hear about it, but then we don't really dissect, okay, what happened? What did they invest in? Why did they lose 100%? How can we stop ourselves from making those same mistakes? You know, we just hear that and we think, oh, okay, investing's bad, you know, instead of actually thinking, why in this situation did that happen, and how can we not make that mistake?
Yeah, I like that. I think like I don't want to quote him again, but I've got another quote from Robert, which is that like he wrote this headline in I think it was 2014, which is about the time I first discovered Morgan, maybe a bit earlier. And he has this headline. He wrote just a headline, which just says it all. It's like 99% of long-term investing is doing nothing. The other 1% changes your life. And it's basically this idea that every day you wake up and you invest and you don't even really notice it. It's only like that 1% of time when you get a news headline or something scary happens or you make a decision, and that's when you tend to focus all of your energy. But for the most part, like we did the free webinar the other night on YouTube, which was heaps of fun, and we talked about passive income and the 7 sources of passive income that you can earn as an individual. And like a lot of that stuff just happens in the background. It's that magic that happens in the background. But you don't hear a news story about that stuff like, oh, I received $3 in dividends from this one investment, or, you know, I got $100 of bank interest this quarter or something like that. You don't hear news stories about that. You hear all the scary stuff. And so progress is made in those days when you don't hear the news and you don't tune into the news, not in the days when you see all the scary headlines. And I think that's definitely like the education, the imposter syndrome around that are definitely some of the things that I see. But maybe I'll just finalize this kind of investing angle with one question, which is, how do you automate your investments, or do you automate your investments?
Yeah, so I have a ideal portfolio that I've set up, and it's just, I essentially have done a lot of research into which ETFs I would like in my portfolio, what do I want the mix to be, and then I just set up my investing frequency and how much I'd like to invest. And it's all automated for me, because then I don't have to overthink what am I investing in, or what should I buy this month, or how much should I invest. It's already done for me. So, and I think it's a good thing as well to let technology take over, because also in the book, The Psychology of Money.
Oh, here we go. Yep.
Yeah, here we go. One of the things, the big takeaways that I got from that book is that we are often our own worst enemy when it comes to investing, because people aren't logical. And I think there was this one section of the book where he talks about how basically people aren't very logical. So even if somebody has the absolute best portfolio, the best strategy or whatever, somebody tells them, okay, this is the perfect portfolio, the best strategy ever, like whatever, we will still find a way to stuff it up, because we're not rational. Like we'll see a news headline, we'll be like, oh crap, my portfolio's bad, I'm going to sell it all, you know, and like that's what people do essentially. But if you can find ways to limit the amount of human involvement and the human error that you can make and try not to touch your portfolio, well, that's probably, it's probably better for the long term, so you don't make those irrational decisions when you see those scary news headlines.
Yeah, that's great. I really like that. Automation is so good. And one of the books that you recommend in the course is actually Atomic Habits, which is a fantastic book. And automation basically just is automated habits, right? It's like you're investing regularly. You round up if you use like a micro investing app, or all of those things can happen in the background. Transfers, if the pay hits your bank account, you save this amount, whatever. So many different ways to automate. It's basically taking away the need to build those habits and just have them automated in the background and just ticking along. So that's awesome. So Queenie, the course is available on Rask Education now. People can enroll. It's $99, which is super cheap considering everything that it takes into account, which is like all this financial information, and it gives you a pathway through it all to start investing. There's even a section in there, which I do appreciate, because we get, this is like our number one question is, which brokerage account do I use and how do I use it? You actually do a walkthrough of 2 different brokerage accounts in there, which is fantastic. So these are the types of answers to the questions you're going to get if you take the course. But I guess, what else, maybe, do you have any ideas, like what else, why would people take the course? Why would they be interested in taking the course as opposed to maybe listening to a podcast or watching a video?
I think that one of the things that I think the benefits of doing a course like this would be that all the information is in the one place. Because sure, you could find this information at a bunch of different places. You could watch a video about emergency funds, and you could find a podcast about budgeting, or you could read a book about how to different types of investments. But all of these sources of information are quite scattered, difficult to find. But if you do take this course, it's all in the one place. All of the steps are laid out in a logical order. So you can literally go from not knowing anything about investing to being able to make your first investment by the end of the course. And I think just having all of those sources in the one place, it saves you a lot of time. And it's also, very logical. So you can go through all the steps really easily in your own time. And all bite-sized information. We try to make it fun in the course. So we've got fun little analogies and little pictures and things like that. So if I did say so myself, I think it is a really fun course that we've created.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if folks want to get in contact, they can reach out to any of us that we're on social media to learn more about the course. But also the information's available in the show notes. Check it out. Let us know what you think. It's a heap of fun. It supports things like the podcast. It supports content creators and people like us to do what we do. So we do really appreciate it. And we will be hosting things like webinars and things in the future. So you'll get invites along to come and chat with us as well. But Queenie, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for making me smile. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.